What would this car say if it could speak? Juke, 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 juke. Yeah, that's its character. Excitable, like man's best friend. Good doggy. I'm testing the Nissan Juke. If you've seen my video of this car a little while ago, I only did a very short preview. It wasn't a proper test. Now it's going to be a proper test, but it really surprised me. Not just because it looks, I think, at least 100 times better than the previous generation, especially these more aggressive LED lights and all of these design features, but there's also something else. This car has a 3-cylinder engine, and you know I don't like 3-cylinder engines. I'm just not a fan. However, this one has enough power and torque that it's actually really fun and on the road. Juke. It's taken 9 years for Nissan to decide it was maybe time to make a new model. They must have liked the previous shape a lot, but I didn't. However, now, with the second generation, they made something that's not just different, but also quite good to look at. The lines are, in some parts, more straight and aggressive, but the most important thing is that the car doesn't look like a balloon anymore. If we look at the profile of this car, I also like this very much because it's a lot more sporty looking, a lot more aggressive, a lot less bubbly sci-fi like before. And yeah, this is much better now. I like this line over here. I really enjoy this spoiler. It gives it much more of a sporty look. And these wheels are quite interesting. They with this test model, they opted for a lot more rubber than before, which I actually think looks better on this car and makes more sense considering it's an SUV and you're supposed to go, you know, to the limit off-road. Anyway, these lights, much better than before, again, because they're less bubble-like. However, the trunk space was never really a strong point of this car. There's not that much of it, although you can lift this and you have a lot more in the bottom, but still, I don't think you're going to be moving house in this car anytime soon. The interior has changed as well, and now definitely feels better and less plasticky. Have you noticed the physical infotainment buttons? That's how it's done. But absolutely the biggest surprise was how it drives. Okay, so it's pretty darn nice to drive, especially in the corners. The engine is actually lovely. The shifter just as well. But what about fuel consumption? Like I said at the beginning, these tiny engines usually look good on paper, but then you find out that they actually use quite a lot more fuel than you would with a larger engine, which wouldn't have to work so much all the time. So my current average fuel consumption is 5.2 liters per 100 kilometers. Now that's okay, but this is really an average. The lowest I got it, without even really trying much, was 4.1. I'm not kidding, 4.1 liters per 100 kilometers, which is much more of a number you would expect from a tiny engine like this. And you'd say, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And that was pretty much constant driving at 50 kilometers per hour. Ooh, nice. That's certainly not 3 cylinders. 50 kilometers per hour, constant driving with a few stops here and there for intersections. But yeah, that was averaging 4.1 kilometers per hour, 4.1 liters per 100 kilometers. So that's quite impressive. That's much more what you would expect from an engine like this. But there's a caveat. City driving, fine. Freeway or motorway driving, not so fine. I mean, it has enough power, so to speak, but the fuel consumption will go up considerably. I was looking at around 6.5 to 7 liters per 100 kilometers average. So depending on how you're pressing the throttle, how heavy your right foot is, that might go a little bit down, but also higher. I wouldn't really guess that this engine would be very economical on the motorway anyway, even in sixth, because, well, it's just a tiny little engine that has to work quite a bit. So there you go. What a polarizing car this is, or at least was, because with the previous generation, at least, it just had this weird sci-fi bubbly look, like I said before. And, well, it was very polarizing. Some people hated it, some people loved it because it was a lot different than the usual shapes you got with cars. It still sort of is, but while I kind of really dislike the previous generation, this is a lot better, I feel, because it's still different, it's still a Juke, even inside, but there's a lot more, how should I say, consistency, less weirdness, just different stuff. And I do have to say, I enjoy it. I enjoy how it looks on the outside, and I definitely enjoy how it looks on the inside. Gone is the weird center console, and I don't know, it just felt very plasticky before, but now it feels a lot more premium, even though it's still a reasonably priced car. So you've got, okay, this plastic is hard-ish, but you've got soft leather here on the dashboard, you've got soft material there on the front, and I don't know, everything just feels better put together. I also really enjoy this center on the dashboard because, well, it's got these 3 turbine-like looking air vents which you can move around, make you feel like you're in a Lamborghini. I enjoy the new infotainment screen. Well, it's not new anymore, but it is the newest infotainment screen, and thankfully, Nissan had so much foresight to put physical buttons down here at the bottom. Look, what's wrong with them? They really made them look nice. You've got backwards and forwards for when you're listening to your own music, an audio button, a menu button, a map button, camera button, even a back button, and a night and day mode button for the screen. What's wrong? Why cannot other manufacturers do this? It is so much nicer. And I've got a volume button and a zoom in, zoom out menu switching button thingy there as well. It's just so much nicer to have physical buttons and just go like this. Oh, I can adjust my volume while still looking at the road. One of the things that has really quite shocked me, and in a pleasant way, was when I first tried this car out for just a few hours, when I did the preview, which is also on our channel. And I was expecting the Juke to be a Juke, a fairly pleasant vehicle, but not much else. It's an SUV, of course. Everyone wants SUVs today. But usually SUVs don't have amazing driving capabilities. They're just not very sporty. They often make them very hard with the suspension, so they drive a bit nicer, but yeah, they don't really ride nicer. However, the Juke, it is a little bit stiffer, but I was just flabbergasted by how good it was in the corners. Obviously, it's not a racer, but man, this thing is fun. Which is kind of weird if you think about it, because I think the Juke was mostly bought by older people before. Of course, I might be just talking out of my backside here, but that's the feeling anyway. And now you've got this car which handles pretty darn well, and you can have a lot of fun, like I said, in the corners, and I was not expecting that. So yeah, it is a pretty pleasant car. Even if you drive it just slowly, it's got no problems with that. You want to have some fun in the corners? No problems. Let's go. So what about the engine? Now you're pretty much obliged to take this 3-cylinder 1-liter engine. And when I first heard about that, I was just shaking my head. Why? Why do we have to have 3 cylinders? Not even a liter of volume. Why is this necessary? Yes, I know, save the environment, save fuel, and so on and so forth. But more often than not, these engines just aren't that great, and they consume even more fuel than a bigger engine would. However, this is the same engine as in the Renault Clio that I've tested. Well, I don't know when this video is going to go up, but probably just a couple of weeks ago. In reality, I've tested it just a few days ago. And, well, that was interesting. That was some interesting, oh, yeah. It's actually braking. I can feel it braking on the separate wheels, so I don't start sliding. I don't start understeering. That was unexpected. Anyway, this is the same engine as in the Renault Clio, but while the Clio has to do with 100 horsepower, this has 118, I think, ish. And I just cannot explain to you how different this engine feels. Really, really different. Even though I've heard it from Renault, it's the same engine, just different electronics, or probably software. It is not just a little bit more powerful and a little bit more torquey, it just feels a lot more lively, better overall. It's probably the 6-speed transmission as well. It is actually fun to change gears. It feels good. It's fairly accurate. It's not the best I've used, but it's pretty darn good. And just the engine is happy to rev, happy to be torquey. It sounds good. There's none of that horrible juddering that I had in the Clio. And it's just, I don't know, it is a 3-cylinder engine I could live with.
The new Juke starts at just over 17,500 euros. For the top-of-the-line model with automatic transmission, you'll be paying 27,640 euros.